Welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast. You're in the right place if you're a growth-seeking being who acknowledges the challenges and delights of your humanity on the path to an ever more conscious life. If you want to feel inspired to love and accept yourself, to feel free to be and express you in all your brilliance, if you want to truly value yourself and others and feel energized and alive both at home and in the world, then sit back and take a breath as you explore and grow the brilliance of your beautiful human self with your host, the father of non-personal awareness and creator of the NPA process, Joel Young.
Hello, and welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast with me, Joel Young, as the intro just told you. So this is episode 5. It's kind of hard to believe, really. I started this as an experiment, and weekly episodes, already 5 weeks has gone by. We're in November now, and clocks have gone back and all that rather crazy stuff. So if you're brand new, you just found me, thank you for finding me. How lucky are you? And if you're a regular, I know there's lots of regulars now, it's interesting watching what they call the analytics, the numbers. People are joining and listening to the things. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you so much for being here. I do so appreciate that you would choose to spend the time listening to my pontifications. And as ever, it's always my prayer that they're inspiring, helpful, practical, useful, and make a difference to your awakening journey, a difference to your life, a difference to your openness to becoming an ever more brilliant human. That's what we're all about here. So a couple of things. Firstly, I want to give a shout out to Joyce Clement. I've been asking you for feedback, and last week, it was interesting last week, I did last week's podcast, and I've noticed this in my many years of creating content, putting stuff out to people, whether it's live events or whatever it is. And sometimes you have a feeling like, oh, I'm not sure that was so good. And I kind of had that last week with the episode. And I've learned to kind of generally ignore it because there's different opinions. But excuse me. But I got a comment from Joyce on NPA Rocks the day after, and she said, "Awesome episode, Joel. Thank you so much." It's always wonderful to get that feedback, especially when you have one of those kind of subjective low moments. It obviously hit the spot for her, and that's always the way it is. So if you do any kind of content creation, little off-script note here, just know that sometimes your internal voice and your level of self-monitoring when it comes to whether something is really good or not is often bonkers. When it comes to other people's opinions, what you might think is not the best, other people can come and say, wow, that was amazing. So just do it, let it go, and put it out there. That's what I'm doing here on this podcast. So speaking of which, I was saying last time that we're now on 8 platforms, and I have now started adding these podcast episodes onto my YouTube channel, which was also called Be a Brilliant Human. So they're going up. I think I've got at this point 2 out of the 4 that I've already done. I'll put another one up later today, and then I'll get all 4 up. And then when this one goes out, which is today, because you're listening today, I will hopefully get them up pretty much on the same day. I'll see how that goes, given the time constraints that I have. But if you found me, if you happen to be watching or listening on YouTube, then hello. And this is available on 8 other podcast platforms. So as ever, I would love to get your feedback. You can kind of feedback that would be really good is any kind of review would be great. If you can do whatever platform you're listening on, I would love a review from you. 5 golden stars, if that feels true for you. And also you can leave me a voice message. You can go to our podcast hub, which is anchor.fm/JoelingMPA. There's a button there that says leave a message, and you can leave me a voice message. So again, you can ask me a question. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in particular, if you've got a life situation you'd like to have some input from me, you can just go ahead and leave me a message there. If you're shy on the whole voice message thing, you can email me at joel@nonpersonalawareness.com or find me on social media and DM me, or even leave a comment on one of those places. And I will endeavor to include that in something that we do going forward. All right, so today it's entitled Making the Decision to Let Go, How to Connect with Your Inner Decision Maker. Inner Decision Maker. There you go, that feels better. So let's go for that and let's get into it. So it's funny, isn't it, how the universe conspires to give you signs. The inspiration for the topic and the thing that I'm giving you today came from two things that happened this week, really. So first up, I've told you I'm a podcast listener, and the way that I started, or actually implemented, getting this podcast up and running was on a course with a guy called James Lavers, formerly known as the Lazy Coach. He's just changed his branding now, so he's now calling himself the underground expert, I think that is, or underground expert. He helps you become an underground expert. And also one of the other guys on that course is a guy called George Hardwick, and his podcast is called The Sovereign Human Show. And as it happens, he was interviewing James. So I was listening to that, and James said something very interesting, that one of his things that he's discovered when, just so you know, he works with generally entrepreneurs, but he works with entrepreneurs who are basically coaches and healers and service providers who work with people in inspirational ways. And he says he finds that one of the biggest blocks to them getting stuff done is that sense of friction, as he calls it. There's, why haven't you made a decision already, or why haven't you done it already? There's some kind of friction in the way. But it sort of boils down to just making a decision to do it. But in my view, a true decision, when you're aligned with it, makes things happen already. But he talked about that. So that was kind of there in my sort of field of awareness. And then I had a client this week, and and just so you know, a fair portion of my clients also happen to be healers and practitioners and coaches. I have a variety of different kinds of people doing different things, but that's definitely a good portion of them. People who are customers and clients already have a practice, and they part of what they do is they also create products, are looking to get more clients, all those kind of things. So I do find that in that case, and with a lot of my clients, they already have a lot of awareness, but they find themselves sort of stuck with something or really wanting to up their game. As I always say, we're never done. We all have work to do, or greater levels of mastery to come to. So this week's client was launching a big project, and she found that stuff was coming up just prior to it starting. So she was obviously aware that it was potentially damaging, or something not the energy that she wanted to put out, or what she wanted to feel going into this. She'd basically done an awful lot of work to set something up. It was about to start. And when it came to delivery, she didn't want to feel that this stuff was here, but it was coming up, understandably, just as she was about to dive into it. And she realized that there were sort of triggers going off. It was bringing up stuff from her past, but somehow she just sort of couldn't let it go. So again, another thing about me is I find when I'm working with someone, things can come up, and one of my zones of genius, I suppose, is creatively coming up with tools in the moment during a session that are sort of perfect for that person. But I also find that they can be applied and useful for everybody, and also often in different situations as well. And on this occasion, we were looking at the decision to let go, and I come up with this powerful little framework to help her with that, which is what I'm sharing with you today. And by the way, talking of one-to-one sessions, if you're curious about my one-to-one sessions, if you want to work with me, if you feel that it would be valuable, and I believe it would be very valuable to you, if you've got stuff going on or just want to have someone by your side guiding you through, creatively working with you specifically on what your needs are, whether it's getting through a particular hump, a block that you can't seem to shift, or just generally growing and transforming and keeping yourself on your top game, then you can go and check out my sessions at joelyoungnpa.com/sessions. So first up, I want to talk a little about the whole letting go thing. And I also want to talk a bit about how pressure and tension can affect decision making. So for my client, the decisions that she realized she needed to make in that session was simply to let go. And that's the frame I'm looking at it through. In terms of what gave birth to this little framework, was about the decision to let go and letting go in general. But I do have to say to you, this framework can help you with any kind of decision. So I also want to kind of look at the general process of decision making and where that comes from. But let's start with letting go. So letting go. Well, we generally understand that letting go is a good idea. So the question is, why is it so damn hard sometimes? Well, sometimes the fact is there's simply a process that you need to go through. There's some things in life where part of, if you would like to say, your soul's intent is for you to take the steps through the journey. So letting go isn't going to happen in an instant. It's just not the way that things are designed for you to experience it, because it's through the experience that you learn the lessons, through that you evolve. So there are times when that there's just a process to be had in letting go, and it takes longer than our impatient little puppy minds would like for it to be. But other times it's more about being tangled up in irrelevant stuff. Again, especially if you're kind of already have spent time on the awakening path, you've done a lot of different techniques and personal growth stuff. You expose yourself to a lot of different ideas. It's very easy to get caught up and tangled up in the different ideas about what you're supposed to do or what needs to happen or all of that kind of things. And it can be a bit of a red herring, because what I found is that the how, because that's a big thing. It's like, how do I let go? The how tends to reveal itself after a fully congruent decision is made. And kind of that's where we got to in the session, is really understanding that, in a sense, the decision was already made and it was about aligning with that. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but, that situation where there's something and you need to let go, and it's not doing any favors, and perhaps you're even aware that all that's required is that you decide to let go, and yet you don't. So then you try to figure out the underlying causes. You do more and more process work, or you just distract yourself or rationalize it, all those kind of things. And it's as if, in spite of all landing that decision somehow eludes you. It's like the pressure builds, the self-recriminations build, and it just seems to get harder and harder. So I've certainly felt this. And I've mentioned before that one of my historic bugbears is staying in relationships way past the sell-by date. And what's that if not procrastinating the decision that I know only too well is the right one? So, but what I found is that, it's really common, but also I found that more than anything else, the thing that jams up the cogs in that process is pressure. So I want to say that the mixed pressures cause confusion. So you can have pressures from different places, different ideas, and generally the mind is attempting to take the reins of decision making. But let's face it, the mind is rubbish at decision making. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have its part to play. Okay, that's obvious. It's obviously going to play a part. It's important to take account of the rational world. This show is about sort of living at the coalface of human existence, which requires the mental processes, the cognitive stuff. But I've not found the mind to be the best aspect of you to take the lead on it, because the mind generally, it spews out all sorts of shoulds. So whether they're internally sourced or externally sourced, they're sort of dogmatic ideas, inner arguments, or obsesses on the consequences, and usually breeds fear around them. And have you noticed how the mind is really great at offering completely contradictory advice to you? So again, that's going to build up conflict. It's going to build up tension. It's going to build up pressure. And usually there's time in the mix as well. So time is another factor that can bring that pressure in. Now, my invitation to you is to ponder that there's a deeper place, a more intuitive place where you'll find that the decision is clear. So if you go back to episode 3, I talked about intuitive interactions. That's one of the 3 interactions to master. So this is, in a sense, an invitation to come into that intuitive interaction so you can drop deeper. So connecting intuitively is not helped by pressure, because it's an act of receiving. It's an act of listening. It comes of stillness and of silence. It's that receptive feminine. So rather than the hand being clenched, like in the masculine way, it's kind of held open. So it holds things lightly. That's more the intuitive realm. And just to be clear on a distinction here, when I talk about inner stillness and inner silence, you can have that inner silence even while the world goes mad around you. It's like meditation. It's like, someone tries to control the environment to make it silent so they can meditate, kind of missing the point of meditation. It's about inward stillness. So you can make decisions under pressure. I'm not saying that, but that's more a function of cultivating an inner stillness that is available under certain pressures. So again, back to that sense of life being a practice and mastery. As you get in touch with this ability to make decisions, or contacting that decision maker within, then you'll be able to do it much more easily in the face of the pressures around you. But you're not looking to places that cause pressure, all of those mind ideas or other people's ideas, because that will get that's the kind of pressure that's going to interrupt that connection that you have within. And if we go for an NPA perspective, a non-personal perspective, I would say that, consider this, that you don't make the decision. The decision is there for the taking. So that could be a little bit of a leap for you. I don't know. It's certainly very hardcore non-personal awareness. But in a sense, what I'm saying, the you there, as in you don't make the decision, is really referring to more that kind of very surface conscious self. It's like there is that part of you underneath, which is connected. Again, going back to episode 3, talking about intuitive interactions, I mentioned how those instincts and that deeper part of you is connected to the micro and the macro. It's connected to the what's happening now in the context of you personally in your daily life, and it's connected energetically to the wider picture. So it's that point of knowing that can take into account the bigger picture and the minutiae of the present moment. And in that place, there's a knowing, which is the same as it is a decision that is already there and already made. So it's really just a question of aligning with it rather than making it. So in a sense, the question changes to, are you willing to receive it? Are you willing to let it in? Which is where, as James said, the friction often comes in, and it's a huge part of the framework that I'm offering you. So just so you know, taking the pressure off tends to make everything more frictionless. And again, this is a huge part. This is what NPA really helps you do, is to go from what I say is Velcro world, where everything sticks to you, to that kind of monorail, magnetic, friction-free world where things can flow easier. Because frictionlessness, that's a good word, isn't it? Frictionlessness is easier. Things tend to be allowed to flow more. There's more flow. And when it comes to decisions, I mean, if you've got a frictionlessness, if there's less friction, that's what I'm really trying to say, and things are flowing more, then things become quicker and easier. Decisions become quicker and easier, so actions flow quicker and easier, which will make you more functional. It'll help you get more stuff done faster, and bonus, wait, there's more, with less stress. Does that sound good? All right, so let's get into the framework. Okay, let's talk about connecting with the decision maker, and just I want to talk you through how this way of looking at things, this approach, this framework kind of works. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to suspend any disbelief. You have to take my word for it. Just suspend any disbelief and just literally assume that you have an inner decision maker. It's that part of you which already knows a decision that needs to be made and in fact has already made it. Now, I use personification a lot in the work I do. As I've said many times, the work I do is relational. It's changing your relationship to the stuff that's going on. And personification literally means you make it like an inner person. Hence, I call it, rather than the decision, which is in fact more the truth, it's just the energy of the decision. But by personifying it, saying, for me, it'll be he, and if you're a lady, it'll be she. I'll use she going forward, I think, because it's easier just to pick one. But to personify it is really powerful because it activates those relational parts of ourselves, so we can relate to it as if it's another person. In a sense, it is an aspect of you, so it's fair to say. But again, I use personification a lot. So assume that you have this inner decision maker and that she already knows what the decision is and that it's already been made. The other thing to really put in the frame is that she has the authority. So in fact, she's the sole authority. She's like Daffy Duck all of a sudden. She's the sole authority on that. She is the decision maker. She's the decision that exists within you. So again, as I said in the last section, like she's tapped into the micro and the macro. And it's not about pressure from anyone else. It's like it really is, it's sourced from within you, from that deep connection with yourself. And that decision has already accounted for all those factors. So can you see how this, in a way, it sort of trumps all of those dogmatic ideas from outside, the prevarication and questioning of the mind? It just says this part already has it handled. It's already got it down. So the first part is just to know that that part of you exists. Now, when you do, the trap here is to try and grab it. Right, I must find it, grab it, own it, claim it. I must control it. No, don't do that. That's not what I'm asking you to do. The trick here is to simply notice it. Simply become aware of it, to spend time with it and let its gravity do the work. So let me talk about that. So generally we try and grab something, claim it and hold it. Remember, this is kind of relational, okay? So you can't grab and control someone. I mean, you can try, but it's never very sustainable. But the act of becoming aware of it, that first part of just knowing it exists, does that job actually. You just go, oh, it's there. Now, there's nothing really for you to do. Just the awareness of it allows, and what I mean by allow its own gravity to do the work. It's like just becoming aware of it. Awareness brings life to something. It's like you bring your awareness to the presence of that decision within you, the decision maker. And just by virtue of that, it's like feeding it. It gives it that sense of allowing it to expand within your awareness, which it will do by itself because it's already, part of a perfect fit for all of your longings anyway. So that's the invitation, is to simply know that you have this decision maker. It's already made. It's there inside of you. She has the authority. And just the act of becoming aware of it is enough for it to begin to gravitate, so you can bring that connection in. So let's talk about this in the context of letting go, or specifically letting go, as that's where we started, and that's what I titled this episode. So let's say you know there's something that you need to let go of. There's something that's there. You even know that the decision has been made. Maybe you've taken that on, and you're just not connected with it. So there's a decision. You know it's there, but you're not connecting with it. But you kind of want that decision to land, if that makes sense. I just want it to happen. I want it to be hearing me. So you want it to land, but you can't grab it or force it. So here's the key. So in the case of letting go, what you could mistake is I'm asking you to let go. If I'm saying connect with the decision to let go, it's very different from saying I'm asking you to let go. Do you see that? So I'm not asking you to let go. What I'm asking you to do, using that gender-specific her, is to spend time with her, to spend time with that part of you. Just to imagine, if we use the personification, that you're just going to go and sit with her. You're not trying to force her to do anything because that brings that decision pressure in. You're just going to go and sit with her. So again, remember, this is relational. So what you're doing is you're creating the connection, you're creating the bond. And then the happening, the decision itself, is going to land through that medium. So this is a completely different approach to most normal things of how can I make myself make a decision. It's like I can know the decision, the energy of that decision is here, and I just need to spend time with it, just spend time with her. You don't even have to know what the decision is. It's like I just know it's there. If I hang out with it, then in that vibrational connection, all that resonance stuff is going to work. And then I'll find that the decisions that need to be made will just sort of happen. It's effortless. So, and I can give you an example. So my client this week, her story was based on missed opportunities. So there's past experiences of missed opportunities coming up. And she knew that she needed to let go of that idea of missed opportunities. And certainly it wasn't helping her at this point. But she'd been tangled up in all of these therapeutic equations of what to do. Should I process the memory? Should I do this? Should I do that? So that was what was going on for her. And just the act of allowing herself to acknowledge that the decision maker was there, that the decision was already made, and the fact that there was zero pressure to actually let go, calmed the parts of her that were afraid. They gave her permission to let go, even of the letting go. I'm going to say that again. Permission to let go, even of letting go. So you see how I'm building in here the frictionlessness. And if you're listening to this and you're kind of running it through with, I can see how this relates to me. I wonder if you're already feeling that sense of the pressure releasing, the ease coming in. And as I've said so many times, and I will say it again and again, when you come into that frictionless place, that sense of ease, you activate much more resourceful parts of you. So she went from fearing the process, which was the fear of cocking it up and missing the opportunity that she'd created for herself, all that hard work, and having done all that hard work, put things into place. She was afraid that if she just mess up the delivery, she went from that to feeling enthusiastic, light, and free about. And I find it interesting because in her follow-up email that she sent to me, she didn't even mention the decision itself, which is kind of funny. It was just done. And that's the gift here with these decisions. If you're willing to simply connect with them, pressure-free, then they'll happen all by themselves. It's the non-personal way, my friend. So that's the thing. So to sum up, let me give it to you in 3 easy steps. First, just know that there is an inner decision maker there who has already made the decision, that it's about connecting with her. We're not asking you to let go. It's about just allowing yourself to connect and build that bond with her. She's the sole authority. And by doing that, the gravity of the decision itself will take over. There's really nothing for you to do. So sit quietly with your decision maker, my friend, and watch the miracles come. So there we go. I encourage you to give that a go, sit with it, ponder it. If there's a decision around that you can practice with, just practice sitting with your decision maker. See what happens and let me know. You can get in touch with me via my email, joel@nonpersonallens.com. You can leave a voice message via anchor.fm/JoelYoungMPA, or visit me on social media and let me know how it goes. And as ever, if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, then you can go and find out about that at joelyoungmpa.com/sessions. And I did mention a bit about the non-personal perspective here. As I always say, the best place to start with non-personal awareness is with the NPA process, which you can get for free at NPA, that's November Papa Alpha, NPA4.me/NPA sheet. So next week, I'm ahead of myself this week. I can tell you what's coming up. Next week, we're going to be talking about beating yourself up versus acknowledging your crappy behaviors. An interesting topic. I look forward to seeing you then. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a review. I'd love you for that. And send me a message if you feel it. Otherwise, have a fantastic week, and I will see you next time.